brown, sable, dusky, and olive skin tones. It only takes telling a lie over time to create a new perception of reality. This same concept also changed many people's perception that people with brown skin are not as beautiful as people with lighter skin. Okay, so most of the evidence I will show you comes from historic newspaper articles. Just an FYI, I'm going to be jumping around a little bit with the time periods. All right, so this first article comes from the Times Philadelphia, and it's dated Monday morning, February 9th, 1880. All right, so it's located under the first column under the heading, First Ladies, Their Rules for the White House. All right, so we're going halfway down the page under the subheading, The Model of the White House, skipping down to where it reads, in a row, like schoolgirls in a class, stood the wives and daughters of the cabinet officials, with Mrs. President Hayes at the head. That it was strictly official was proved by the order observed in their positions. Just as the departments are ranked, the women stood, State, then Treasury, War, Post Office, Interior, and the Attorney General. Mrs. Hayes may safely be called a handsome woman, and there will none be found brave enough to dispute the palm. A brunette of the purest type, with large, brilliant eyes that conveyed the idea of surface but not depth, like a transparent window that opens into space. A rather low Greek forehead over which is banded that shiny mass of satin hair. If the glossy coronet could be improved by wave or bangs, but the dark, rich brunette complexion forbids this modern fashion, and Mrs. Hayes is an artist in one or more ways. Clad in rich ruby satin and silk combination, the corsage square and low as pompadour invented to call attention to her charms, no fault can be found with Mrs. Hayes, for her dress is as costly and showy as any worn by the celebrated beauties who flourished in the cabinet during the Grant reign. All right, so I'm not going to finish the article because I've read the part that I want you to hear. Okay, so hopefully you saw and heard what I read. The important part being a quote, which reads, "The dark, rich brunette complexion forbids this modern fashion." Okay, so there are two things here. The first one is President Rutherford B. Hayes' wife, Lucy Webb Hayes, is a woman of color. And secondly, she had a brunette complexion that was dark and rich. All right, so just as a side note, I don't like the Southern way of life, which included slavery. The twist occurs when the Southern white men and women. All right, so moving on to the next brunette woman, you may find this one very interesting.